Assalamu alaikum. Nowadays we are seeing, a lot of cross-pollination, hybrids. They are creating hybrids nowadays, right? From one species, they are making hybrids in the plants and in the animals. So that is also a process of a mutation. So in that way, we are getting a new animal or a mixed animal. People used to say that's from from monkey to the mule. Monkey and, horse.
Horse and donkey.
Yes, horse and donkey. Sorry, horse and donkey together create a mule. So in that way there is a process of mutation. So why not it has also been in the process of evolution?
This is not due to a mutation. Hybridization or polyploidy is mixing up the genetic information. But this genetic information has been existing from the very beginning. There is no new genetic information. Mutation is different. Mutations means a change in the genetic information through insertions, deletions. DNA is a four-letter alphabet. It consists of four letters: A, C, G, and T. So these four-letter alphabet, if you change the letters, places of the letters, and add new letters or delete letters, that is called a mutation. Mutation is only damaging. How do we know that? I have shown you. Mutations only damage living beings. They generate pathology and symmetry. And they have done experiments more than 60 years to show that if there is any beneficial mutation. But we know today, we know very well from the genetics, there is no mechanism. Allah did not create any mechanism which can add new genes. Genes have very complex structure. The complexity of genes is beyond imagination. There are parts of the genes which code for proteins, and different part of the genes codes for different parts of the proteins. If they are being mixed up, they generate different protein molecules. This is not enough. There are parts of the genes which control the activity of the gene, and there are regions which are close to genes which control the activity of all this together. So the complexity of genes is beyond imagination. Now I will make an analogy to make you understand, since not everybody is a geneticist in this room. For example, if you take a book, any book, if you change the places of the letters, you change the places or add new letters or delete letters from this book, would that increase the information in this book? No, of course not. Because first you will make some words meaningless by changing the letters. And then you will make some sentences meaningless. And if you do it too many times, then entire book will be meaningless. But you know what Darwinists say? They say no. If you do that, random changes in the letters of a book, first they say you will add new chapters, new genes, which are meaningful and in continuity with the previous chapters. And they say if you do it too many times, for example, a book of history of China or Hong Kong, you will transform it into a book of medicine. This is such a silly claim of Darwinism. That is a nonsense. Genes, DNA has a very complex structure, beyond imagination. For example, in human DNA, which is about 1.5 meters long, there are 23,000 areas which are called genes. Genes code for the proteins or RNA. That is the final product of a gene. But the complexity is beyond imagination. 23,000 genes code for more than 100,000 different protein molecules. And if you make any change, even a single letter, you make a protein dysfunctional. And if a protein that becomes dysfunctional, for example, it might be an enzyme, it might be a hormone, it might generate either a fatal disease, and this person gets handicapped and dies, or any animal gets crippled and they die. And for example, in the human beings, we know more than 10,000 different genetic diseases caused by mutations. And in hybrid and polyploidy, there is no new genetic information. For example, polyploidy in many plants, such as tobacco, corn. But this is not evolution, because the genetic information has been existing from the very beginning. By coming together, by Allah's leave, it generates different plant is not evolution, because evolution's claim is there has to be by random, by chance, new genetic information which did not exist before. There is no such mechanism. Even scientists cannot even imagine to write down a genetic information or protein molecule. You know what I'm saying? So, no new genetic information means no evolution, of course, and there is no mechanism of generating new genetic information. In case of the mute, for example, if the donkey and horses they mate, mute is not a new species according to the biologist because it is not fertile, and it cannot go back and mate with the horses or donkeys. So, but the species concept of biology is not reliable, they say, biologists also, because it is based on differences or similarities between living animals or living plants, living beings. However, they say, for example, if one group does not mate with the another group, and they are completely isolated and does not mate, they are different species. But many of the species, nobody has ever watched whether they can mate or not. For example, we have the fossils of the extinct species, they say, based on what kind of evidence? Nobody knows. But the bottom line is, this is not important, but I just gave you an extra information, but bottom line is, there is no mechanism which can increase the information in the genome. Remember Richard Dawkins? You want me to show you the film again? Yes? No? Remember that, right? He was asked a simple question. He is defender of Darwinism, #1 defender of Darwinism. According to Dawkins and all the Darwinists, there's supposed to be trillions of different mutations which generated new genetic information since there are millions of species. But he was asked, give one example, one. And he looked around for 20 seconds and no answer. Now, with Mr. Harun Yahya's scientific struggle, he came to a point. Richard Dawkins used to, and I will show you this film also, Richard Dawkins defended in all of his books, that life emerged by coincidences, and the proteins emerged by chance, and proteins coming together make the living cells. In all of his books, he defended this nonsense. But with the powerful evidences Mr. Adnan Oktar spread worldwide, he came to a point, he defends something else. And I will show you the film, and after that we will talk, inshallah. This is from the movie Expelled, and which was taken in the United States in 2009, I guess. In this movie, he's being interviewed. Okay, can we turn off the lights actually a little bit? All right. Now, in this movie, he's being asked about the emergence of life. How did life emerge? Let's see what he says.
Well, then how did it get created?
Well, by a very slow process.
He's
Well, how
talking
did it
about the
start?
emergence of life.
Nobody knows how it started. We know
Nobody
the
knows.
kind of event that it must have been. We know the sort of event that must have happened for the origin of life.
And what was that?
It was the origin of the first self-replicating molecule.
Right, and how did that happen?
I told you we don't know.
We don't know.
So you have no idea how it started?
No, nor has anyone.
Nor has anyone else. What do you think is the possibility that intelligent design...
So what is the
might turn out
possibility
to
of
be,
creation, it says?
The answer
Basically,
to some
intelligence
issues
involved.
in, genetics.
Now let's see what it says. Pay attention.
Evolution.
It could come about in the following way. It could be that at some earlier time, somewhere in the universe, a civilization
Aliens.
evolved by probably some kind of Darwinian means to a very, very high level of technology and designed a form of life that they seeded onto perhaps this planet.
Aliens brought to life to
now,
Earth, he
that
says.
is a possibility.
And that's a possibility, he says.
Possibility. And I suppose it's possible that you might find evidence for that if you look
And we might
at
find evidence for that,
at
he
the
says.
details of biochemistry, molecular biology. You might find a signature of some
Signature
sort
of the
designer.
aliens.
Wait a second. Richard Dawkins thought intelligent design might be a legitimate pursuit?
You see, that's the last stage he came, that's the last point. So basically he defended that life emerged by coincidences for his entire life, in all his books. But after Mr. Adnan Oktar distributed all this creation atlas worldwide, the fossil evidence and the impossibility of the proteins to emerge by chance. Now he admits that life cannot emerge by chance in the earth. But he says aliens, which evolved in the space, brought life to the earth. Of course, then we might ask, who created the aliens? Although we have never seen any aliens. So he is asking aliens for help. But that means, of course, he will admit at the end that Allah is the creator of everything. He knows Darwinism is a nonsense. He is not defending anymore that life could emerge, the proteins could emerge by chance, or the living cells could emerge by chance. He said aliens brought them, and of course, who created aliens? So this is the situation of the Darwinism. Darwinism is collapsing. It's going down in the entire world because Darwinism tried to use science as a cover. Darwinists and materialists, atheists. But science destroyed Darwinism and materialism because Allah is the creator of the science. Who is the creator of the scientific laws? Allah created the scientific laws. And of course, for example, if you see a painting, who will glorify? Who will appreciate? The painter, of course, the artist of this painting. Now, if wherever we look, we see the evidences of creation. And through scientific findings, through scientific evidences, we appreciate, we glorify Allah, His infinite power, artistry, might, inshallah.